This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Be advised that the views and opinions of the hosts and guests do not reflect those of the station.
The United States Military Academy at West Point. The name evokes feelings of pride and achievement. A place for excellence in academics, in military leadership, in selfless service. World-renowned as a top-tier academic institution, the Academy combines cutting-edge technology and educational innovation in state-of-the-art facilities housed at this historic site. Both past and present, the long gray line is full of warrior scholars who are dedicated to the nation and serve a cause higher than themselves. The core curriculum at the Academy stresses the fundamentals of engineering and military leadership, but cadets can choose from among more than 40 subjects for their majors, including computer science, information technology, foreign languages, and economics. All of this to go along with 20 different engineering degrees. Fitness. It's a key component for every Army officer. So naturally, the Academy places a high value on physical training. So whether it's competing in one of the 29 intercollegiate club sports, participating in intramurals, or representing the black and gold in one of the Army's 25 NCAA teams, every cadet is an athlete. Even for those who come here prepared to face a challenge, the road to becoming an Army officer is a demanding one. And it should be. Because, at a moment's notice, Army soldiers can be deployed throughout the world to serve in areas of unrest and conflict. To prepare cadets for the challenges they will face as Army officers, the Academy stresses critical thinking and creative problem solving. Cadets are not taught what to think, they are taught how to think, so that when they emerge as Army officers, they will be soldier scholars prepared for the extraordinary responsibility faced by leaders of character in service to our nation. For more than 2 centuries, the United States Military Academy has developed cadets into leaders of character, providing an education rich in military excellence and steeped in tradition. This is not just the Army's Academy, it is America's Academy, a place that embodies the time-honored values of our nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Philippines Uncut. I'm your host, Buddy Cunana. Now, in this show, we try to cover as many topics as possible, and tonight, we're going to introduce you to the finest military academy in the world, and that great institution of higher learning, the United States Military Academy, or West Point. And joining us tonight to talk about this fascinating topic is the president of the West Point Society of the Philippines, Colonel Dennis Acop. Colonel Acop, welcome to Philippines Uncut.
Thank you, Buddy, for having me here.
And it's really a pleasure to have you here, sir, because you know, this is a fascinating subject, and you know, anyone who hears the word West Point, the name West Point, always is in awe, really, of this, your alma mater, which is one of the most prestigious in the whole world. Okay, before we jump into the topic, let's talk about you, Colonel. What is your background?
My background, I'm from Benguet. I'm a member of U.S. Military Academy class of 1983. Incidentally, also the ruling class in the Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Today,
right
yes,
now.
yes.
Magkababayan tayo. We're from Baguio.
Same. I called Baguio my hometown. So
yeah.
You went to school in Baguio, and then from
Yes.
there you went to the United States Military Academy.
St. Louis University. I was a CAT Corps Commander. I was an ROTC Company Commander. SLU, basically under the Philippine Constabulary, so probably no surprise that when I graduated from West Point, pagbalik ko dito, they said that I had a choice between Army and PC, so I didn't know anything about the Army, so I chose the PC. Incidentally, I also have 2 cousins who are graduates of PMA 70 and 71, Romeo and Reynaldo Acop. They were both PC.
Okay,
So sabi ko,
yes.
PC sila pala na, PC na rin
All in
ako.
the family. All in the family.
Yeah.
Colonel Acop, how long were you in the service?
30 years.
And you stayed in the PC, and your last position was?
I was with the PC until it got dissolved by RA 6975. And then I joined the Army until I optionally retired in 2009.
And then you segued in the private sector.
Right.
What do you do currently, Colonel?
I now work for Wyeth Nutrition. We are now part of the Nestle Group.
Oh, very nice.
I head security and business continuity for Wyeth Nutrition in the Philippines. Prior to that, we were Wyeth Pharma, we became Pfizer Pharma, and now Wyeth Nutrition.
Excellent, excellent. How are you enjoying civilian life?
Great. I'm about to do a lot of the things that I was not free to do when I was in government. So
Yes.
I feel I'm a lot freer now to do and say what I feel like saying and doing.
Yes, yes. And today you are the president of the West Point Society Philippines. Let's talk about your organization. Very prestigious organization, very prestigious graduates, Filipino graduates. Tell us a bit about the West Point Society Philippines.
Well, the West Point Society of the Philippines is the association of Filipino West Point graduates in or from the Philippines. Currently, we have 77 Filipino graduates to date. We still have two Filipino cadets at West Point. Three now, I think.
Yes. What is the mission of your organization, of West Point Society Philippines?
Well, the Filipinos who are sent to West Point are basically allied cadets. So instead of, we get two sources. Filipinos going there can either come straight from the civilian or from the PMA, the Philippine Military Academy. So if they are chosen, then they spend their cadetship at the academy, and then when they graduate, they are required to render return service of a minimum of 8 years service with the government, because the requirement is 2 years of service for every year of scholarship.
Okay, and you're there for 4 years.
So we are there for 4 years. When we graduate, we are required to come home, render service. Many of us render beyond 8 years.
Yes. Does the Philippines send cadets every year to West Point?
We used to, not anymore, until when the list of the bases was terminated, to be candid about it. We lost our special status of having automatic quotas of sending Filipinos to the U.S. service academies. And so after that, our candidates had to compete with the candidates of other allied U.S. nations.
Oh, wow.
So some Filipinos were still able to go, but they have to best the other candidates from the other countries.
And that makes it more difficult, no? Because if you have to, unlike a quota system where
Yeah.
guaranteed you have one Filipino going
Right.
every year, if you have to best let's say from allied countries of the U.S., we're talking about how many countries perhaps do you have to compete against? Applicants from other countries.
As many allies as the U.S. has.
Wow.
in the world.
Yes, yes. So very hard now to go to West Point, but
Right,
still.
right now, I noticed that they have more allied cadets now at West Point, because the last time I attended our 30th reunion in 2013, at the parade and review, I saw a lot more allied cadets when I was there. My class had 8 allied cadets. I was the only one from Asia. All 7 were from Latin and South America.
Interesting. Colonel, how about these days? If there are people watching, let's say parents or even students themselves who want to go to West Point, dream of going to the United States Military Academy, joining that long gray line,
Yeah.
how do you go about it?
They apply. I understand that they can apply directly from civilian life, or others also from the PMA as a cadet. So we've actually seen Filipinos going there from, I think there was a time that there were 2. One came from the PMA and another straight from the civilian sector.
Yes, yes. And as you said, now there are 2.
They just have to apply, and they have to satisfy the requirements. It's a rigorous selection, but if you get selected, then you get to be the exchange scholar. Well, incidentally, Bud, you know this program, it used to be an exchange program, but it ceased to be an exchange program. I think.
You mean tell me, way back when, a long time ago, they would send the U.S. would send cadets to come to PMA?
Yes, especially during the 60s. I think it probably stopped late 60s or early 70s. I'm pretty sure probably late 60s. The U.S. actually sent some citizens to attend the Philippine Military Academy. So some Americans are actually PMA graduates.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Parang lugi ata.
No, I mean, it's definitely a different environment, totally different environment, probably in many ways. No, a very different experience also.
Yeah.
Yes. Although military tradition is very similar in both countries, in both academies, but the environment is quite different. I
Depends
think,
on how you look at it. It's just like sending probably an attaché from the developed world to a developing country, and for so it's going to be an interesting experience for that officer from a developed world, working in a developing context.
Colonel, although you are a West Point graduate, I understand that you also have some experience in PMA because you spent some time there, before you were sent to the States.
Yes, but luckily during our time, we didn't have to spend the entire year as plebes at PMA. We only spent part of it there, practically the whole of Beast Barracks and a little bit of the academic year.
Okay, let's talk about that. Beast Barracks for the uninitiated. What does Beast Barracks? Sounds very ominous.
Yeah, excuse me. It sounds beastly. We call it Beast Barracks, but that's basically that's basically basic training. That's basic training wherein the cadet is introduced into the military life from civilian life. So it is the training wherein the new cadet is supposed to lose all his civilian antics and become militarized.
Civilian antics, good word. Would you say, given the name Beast Barracks, that is the fiercest part of the plebe year, for instance, where you probably encounter the most number of dropouts? Would you say?
Yes. Of course, it's always a shock for these young men and now women to go in, and be transformed. Some of them find out that probably the military life is not for them, and so they quit. So you're right. There's the highest rate of dropping out is Beast, and then as the year moves on. So yeah.
Let's talk about the similarities between Philippine Military Academy and West Point. I mean, I know that the Philippine Military Academy was established. It started as the Philippine Constabulary School, I think, or something like that, in the 30s. Or
so
20s.
they say, yeah. So they say.
So, is it right to assume that since we were underneath Americans at that time, that PMA was somehow modeled after West Point?
Oh, it was modeled after West Point because the early framers of the Philippine Military Academy were actually the first Filipino West Point graduates. And you're right, because people will have to understand that before we became independent, we were a colony of the U.S., right? And so even before the armed forces or the Philippine Army existed, there was only the Philippine Constabulary created by the occupying power. And so the Philippine Constabulary is probably the oldest among the branches of service of the armed forces. So when there was yet no armed forces school, there was just the PC school. And so some historians traced the origins of the PMA to that time when there was only the Philippine Constabulary and there was a training institution. And so they I don't know, based in Camp Allen in Baguio.
Interesting. That was the first site of the origins of the Philippine Military Academy in Camp Allen in Baguio.
Until Colonel Pobre came out with his book and said that there's even an earlier, it started not in Baguio but in Manila at the Intramuros or...
Very interesting.
Yeah.
And I can see why it would have started as a constabulary school, because back then I assume the priority would be internal security and that sort of thing, no?
Right.
Back then.
Yeah, the Philippine Constabulary was basically a multiplier for the meager U.S. Army forces in the Philippines, and so they had to train the locals into becoming adjunct soldiers to the U.S. Army in the Philippines. So that's how the Philippine Constabulary came about.
Colonel, you went to West Point, but you chose to join the Philippine Constabulary,
Right.
which back then was part of the Filipino Armed Forces of the Philippines.
Yep.
But how about these days? Let's say the West Point graduates, Philippine West Point graduates, have the option to go to the PNP.
Yes.
They do.
Now, no more. It stopped with the PMA class of 91, where some PMA graduates can still join the Philippine National Police, but now they can no longer do that. So it's only the graduates of the Philippine National Police Academy who can do that, and from other sources. they're promoting from the ranks to become a police officer. So in fact, it's kind of strange because I now see a lot of my former subordinates in the Philippine Constabulary who are mere constables or constable second class, C2C, sabi nga, we call them. And now they're police generals.
Oh, okay.
So it's easier for them to rise through the ranks.
Yes. Colonel, let's talk about your alma mater, the United States Military Academy. Give us an introduction to this institution.
The U.S. Military Academy, founded in 1802, obviously a very old, one of the old institutions of the U.S. It's called West Point. A lot of people still wonder up to now, why West Point? You know, what?
That is going to be my next question.
Yeah, but then again, the reference at that time was from the old world, from Great Britain, from Europe, and you have to cross the Atlantic, and there's this place that that leads you right into the mainland of the United States through the Hudson River, and the mouth of it is West Point. And so the defenders put up a battery of field artillery there in order to welcome the invaders. So from the perspective of Great Britain, it was West Point from old Europe.
Interesting.
Yeah, and so of course we know the famous graduates, Ulysses Grant, Robert E. Lee, Douglas MacArthur, up to the present time, Norman Schwarzkopf, and all of. So there are so many West Point graduates now who've seen, especially those who served during all the big wars, Civil War, First World War, Second World War, Korea, Vietnam, and it has moved on to U.S. allies, including us, and so now West Point started to have foreign alumni as well. And the Filipinos, we play a major role in the number of foreigners who are West Point graduates.
Really? Okay.
Because of the length of our partnership with the U.S.
In the quota system we had previously.
We probably have one of the biggest number of West Point alumni among the U.S. allies. Probably the biggest.
That's a very interesting fact. I never it never occurred to me. But as you said, given our long engagement, being a colony, and then the quota system we had for a long time,
right?
And then so the numbers are really there.
You can just imagine even from our first graduate, who is Vicente Lim. He's a member of the class of 1914.
Imagine that.
When the First World War started. So
and he saw action there, I think. No, did he see action in the First World War?
I'm not sure. I don't think so. I think he came right back.
And of course, our most prestigious West Point graduate in the Philippines, no other than former President Fidel Ramos,
who was my former boss. I served under him for quite some time. Yeah, and so I have had the privilege of working directly under him when he was the Chief PC, Acting Chief of Staff, Secretary of Defense, and President.
Why do West Pointers excel so much? I think it has to do with really the training you got at the point, no?
Of course.
Right? I mean,
Siyempre naman, buddy.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we have all these distinguished graduates. You mentioned them from the United States. These guys are titans of history, as in colossal figures. No? You just mentioned MacArthur, Patton,
not just
Eisenhower.
Not just in the army, not just in government, even in the private sector. Right now, I don't know exactly when it started, but a lot of the West Point graduates, especially in the U.S., are now renowned captains of industry in their own right. You know, there was a time when I don't know if you probably saw that, buddy. You know, there was a year or two when the most successful CEOs in the U.S. were found out to be West Point graduates, U.S. Service Academy grads.
And this is something we're going to discuss in our second segment. It's because people who go to West Point really receive a holistic education. It's not just academic. It's not just military. You said it's also physical. It's
everything. Leadership,
very
management.
Very important. Colonel, we have to pause for a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about what is it like to go to West Point, your experiences. What is it like to be a cadet? What kind of education you get, and so forth and so on. Okay. So guys, stick around because more of Duty on Our Country and West Point when Philippines Uncut returns.